Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. This guy isn't a culture fit. He gets red-faced on the sidelines, tries to MF every player, screams, yells. He's a dick to the media. He's very condescending. He's not warm and fuzzy. He coached in the Midwest his entire career. He's never coached college football south of the Mason-Dixon line. It's going to blow up in LSU's face. That's what every fan said in November of 1999 when Nick Saban finished his opening press conference at LSU. Here's the problem with those LSU fans now and today. You want your coach to be a movie star or a rock star or a TV star, when in reality, their job is more of a 4-star general. You pick which movie star you like the most based on looks, personality, relatability. Hey, I'd have a beer with that guy, Matthew McConaughey. I'd hang out with that dude. That's what Curly Holman was. That's what Jerry DiNardo was. That's what Ed Ogeron was. But when I ask you, does a culture fit with the Secretary of Defense in the White House matter? You say, shit, just give me the best and brightest in the room. Shit's hitting the fan. Just come in and save our asses. Please, 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 please. Just save our ass and just get the job done. I don't care where you're from. Just figure it out. That's what Scott Woodward just did. A Baton Rouge native, an LSU graduate. He said, I'm not going to find you a friend. I'm going to find you a football coach to save your ass and get the job done. And he got a football coach. A football coach with the most active wins in the country and the second highest winning percentage behind Nick Saban, and his name is Brian Kelly. When you say certain things out loud, instead of just thinking them, they almost become more surreal. Because when you say it out loud, you'll hear the LSU Fighting Tigers just went up to South Bend, Indiana, and stole the winningest coach in the history of Notre Dame football and brought him back to Baton Rouge. Do you understand what I just said? Think about what I just said. People who are listening of a certain age, who are a little bit older than me or much older than me, if you ask their grandparents, their fathers. I had so many people on Facebook who were like in their 30s and says, boy, if my father was alive today, he would never believe that LSU stole the Notre Dame coach. It's rarefied air. This is unprecedented. Scott Woodward, a Baton Rouge native, just blindsided the winningest program in the history of college football, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Touchdown Jesus. Think about what I'm saying. Notre Dame coaches and players said they were shocked and totally blindsided. This bit of nugget, though, is still amazing to me. You realize that this is the first time in 114 years that a Notre Dame head coach left the Irish football team for another college head coaching job. 1907. It's been 114 years. So you don't leave Notre Dame. You don't leave Notre Dame. There are so many people in the media saying, how is this possible? How did Notre Dame head coach, the winningest coach in the history of Notre Dame, you either retire there or you get fired? You don't leave for LSU. And all some LSU fans can think about at this very moment is, yeah, but does he like gumbo? He ain't from around here. He ain't about our culture. Well, guess what? Your football culture sucks. That's why they've hired this new coach in the first place, because the culture in that room sucks. You went after a guy who knows how to make a gumbo. I went to go see Brian Kelly land at the BTR Jet Airport today in Baton Rouge earlier today. He waved at everyone a couple times, and then he got into the transit bus, and everyone, said go Tigers and LSU and all that stuff. And one already drunk fan said, man, you in South Louisiana, you got to come see the fans. No, he doesn't. For whatever reason, all the people who think Brian Kelly is a dick, and I've never thought that way about him, but some people do, whether it's because he's the Notre Dame head coach, whether it's just how he's interacted with the media, whatever. I don't know what the hell it is. But for people who say he's not a people person, well, doing some research, how about when his special teams coordinator said, quote, he's the best people person I've ever been around in my life. He can communicate to any group, whether it be the players, the billion-dollar alums, the fan on the street that just wants to come over and connect with him. And in the end, that's what leadership is about. Marcus Freeman, you know, that defensive coordinator that LSU wanted that decided to go to Notre Dame instead to be with Brian Kelly, he said he knows how to relate to you and speak to you, and it's so clear. It's so personable. He's so strong. Former offensive coordinator, the guy who he fired in Notre Dame, still this past season came out and said Brian Kelly can really relate to a lot of people in different ways. You always liked him when you left. He had this great way about him. I don't want to say politician, but he always knew what to say. You can't talk to people from South Louisiana. You in South Louisiana, man, you gotta come speak to the fans. Interesting. Kind of like when one of his former assistants also said, he's a political guy, Brian Kelly. He's a political guy coaching football, and that gives him a great advantage. He can be a chameleon. When the team needs that Irish Catholic Brian Kelly, they get the tougher Brian Kelly. When the team needs the softer approach, they get that Brian Kelly. You can't be that successful for that long and have everyone hate you. You just can't. You know what? Nick Saban's a dick. He's condescending to the media. Go look up millions, and there are millions of clips on YouTube of tons, hundreds of episodes of ESPN doing inside Alabama spring practice or training days with the Tide throughout the decade with Nick Saban. And you go look them up on YouTube, and it's just tons of videos of Nick Saban cracking jokes with his players all day. His players have recently come out and said that Nick Saban loves to tell D's nuts jokes. Just endless hours of footage of Nick Saban being hilarious. Nick Saban cutting it up before and after practice. Go look up his mentor, Bill Belichick. Go look up on YouTube this exact title, Bill Belichick, Voice of Genius. You finish that whole 15-minute video, Bill Belichick is hilarious. Former players who are on ESPN right now who played under Bill Belichick and say, this idea that we never laughed or had fun or cut up before or after practice, or we didn't have team-building exercises and icebreakers and went bowling, that's total bullshit. That he never smiles, that's bullshit. That's media fabrication. That's fan fabrication. Because I guarantee you, all these people who are shitting on Brian Kelly, let's say Bill Belichick became the next Saints head coach for next season. Sean Payton decided he wanted to retire. And Bill Belichick's like, hey, I want a new challenge. Don't tell me for a second that Saints fans wouldn't be happy as hell to have Bill Belichick as their head coach. Get that bullshit out of here. The personification is what they show to you, but what they show to players is more important because, and this might piss you off, but the coaches don't really give two shits about the fans, except on game day for home field advantage. That's it. That's all they care about. This was a business decision for Brian Kelly's legacy and his family. Plain and simple. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just like every other business decision that every other human being makes in every other profession known to mankind. Now I'm hearing all these media people say, A, we broke the news early before Brian Kelly could tell his team. B, they are now mad that Brian Kelly didn't tell his team first because it leaked out to the media before he could. And then C, these media people are now mad that he only talked to his team for a couple of minutes and then left. Well, I mean, how long is it acceptable to talk to a team to say goodbye? Like, you want him to sing all 85 players a lullaby before he goes? I mean, what the hell do you want him to do? He explained to them why. All the players knew. Notre Dame players have a podcast. 4 of them have a podcast with the Colin Cowherd Podcast Network. And they all came out and said today, well, look, I mean, we're shocked that he's gone, but, I mean, we understand why he's leaving. Like, it's really hard to recruit to Notre Dame because of our academic standards here. It's tough. Like, we get it. We don't want him to go, and we wish him the best, but we understand why he's leaving. It's a business. He explained to him why. They moved on. What else do you want him to do? Brian Kelly made a business decision. Brian Kelly finally realized, I want to be on the same level playing field as Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and Ohio State. Because this entire decade, when he's been at Notre Dame, he has been recruiting and playing with one hand tied behind his back while bringing a knife to a gunfight. Now, Brian Kelly says, okay. Now I get the same bullets as everybody else. Brian Kelly is coming here to get championships the same way Jimbo and Saban and Dabo have theirs. Scott Woodward also made a business decision. The same business decision Mark Emmert and Joe Dean made in 1999, making Nick Saban the third highest paid coach in college football. Forget the gumbo, forget the warm and fuzzy feeling. He hired a football coach, a general, to raise the academic standard of the university and the economy in Baton Rouge and the entire state of Louisiana. That's what this is, plain and simple. He wants a business decision. Scott Woodward wants a business decision. It's for different reasons, but at the end of the day, everyone at LSU, including Brian Kelly, benefits. So yeah, it's a fit. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook in the description link below.